Hi, I'm Paula Ruiz. Thank you for your time today. So, my dad is from Spain, and my mom has always been very internationally minded. She learned Spanish in high school, and they both have traveled all over the world. So, from an internationally minded family, we've always been very aware of global issues and current events. Our topics at the dinner table often, focus about things that are happening all over the world and how it's affecting individuals in different communities. So, from that kind of open-minded background, my sister started eating only humanely raised meat about 7 years ago. I've always looked up to her, and I saw her reasons for doing so as very valid ones. So 6 years ago, I also decided to join her and chose to only eat humanely raised meat. And 4 years ago, I expanded that to only humanely raised meat and animal byproducts, including things like cheese, yogurt, any other dairy and eggs and things like that. I did this because I think it's right to treat livestock humanely and raise them in sustainable methods that are also natural. So they're living in outdoor spaces with natural foods and things like that instead of factory farming. So through my own individual support of this, I hope to make an impact, however small it may be, by economically supporting companies that follow values that I support instead of other companies. With this focus on food and where it comes from and things like that, I chose to do a 5-course meal for my senior project. I was very excited to get more into the cooking side of using these ingredients that I'm so passionate about and compose them into sophisticated and delicious foods. So I found my project facilitator through my mother, a co-worker of hers. She owns it's Mary Menicucci. She owns her own catering business in addition to her everyday job, which I find really inspiring and admirable that she is so passionate about it that she does it on her own time and has managed to turn it into a successful business. So through her guidance, it was great to have her there bouncing off recipe ideas and thinking through seasonal ingredients and where I could get vegetables and things from so that they were as locally sourced as possible to really tie together the environmental and moral parts with the cooking part. So before I started this project, I wasn't a super experienced cook. I would make myself dinner if my parents hadn't and do other things like that, just to kind of feed myself and whatnot, but I hadn't really been super involved with the cooking part of my family. So starting with this project, I sort of picked up my own slack and I would make dinner for my family sometimes, and it was great to have a sort of everyday way to practice my cooking skills. I really enjoyed pulling out recipe ideas and trying them, just creating a meal and inviting some friends over to sit down, because it made the whole experience more enjoyable to be able to share this food with people that I care about, which is a great thing. I started out just one day, I felt like starting to cook, so I made cinnamon rolls for my friends who had slept over the night before and made them breakfast like that. And it was fun. It was a little challenging because I hadn't worked with bread very often, and it's often very tricky to get the rising time right and things like that, so your dough doesn't turn out really chewy, and you want to get it just right, so that can be tricky. I also made bread bowls, moving on from the cinnamon rolls to something with a little more structure and a little more challenging. And I also made broccoli cheddar soup to go along with it. It was a lot of fun to try out these new recipes and make foods that you hear of people making or you see in a restaurant, and to really make it on your own and being self-sufficient like that was a lot of fun and brought me lots of joy. I was cooking throughout the entire year. I would capitalize on opportunities like Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner to step up and make one dish for my family in addition to everything else that they were cooking. So I liked that I was able to help out my family and work on my project at the same time. As the year went on, I found certain recipes that I would be looking on constantly and sort of like thumbnail them and think about what I wanted to do for my final project. Around Christmas time, we made empanadas for the first time, and they turned out great. And we've been in Argentina that past September, so with that travel experience and then making it on our own, I decided that this was definitely one of the courses that I wanted to do for my final product. And throughout the year, I would talk to my project facilitator and see if she had any ideas, recipes she'd seen recently or things like that that she'd tried that she thought would be good for this. And she suggested a collard green pesto. And I've always been an advocate of vegetables, you know, I love eating them, but sometimes it's not the most popular thing, especially for people our age. So I made the pesto and put it with pasta and served it to my friends, and they actually really enjoyed it. So it made me happy that I could create a dish that out of collard greens, something probably not very appealing to most people, but it turned into something really tasty. So I enjoyed the combination of nutrition and good food, that tastes good. So one of the challenges, the main challenge that I faced in my project is that my parents decided to redo our kitchen this past winter. So construction started around February, and since then and still our kitchen is down to studs. So that was definitely very challenging. We kind of moved our eating situation into the living room, or sorry, not the living room, the laundry room. So we were cooking on a camp stove on the counter and doing all our dishes by hand in the utility sink. And it was very, very challenging to get 5 courses all put together on a 2-burner camp stove with your fridge out in the garage, running out for ingredients like that. And I went over to my friend's house to borrow her oven to bake the pie shell and my empanadas and things like that. So that was definitely a great thing to overcome in time management and making sure everything came together at the last moment to be served. But it was a lot of fun. Thank you. The fruit tart on the camp stove turned out not so great for the custard. The temperature was too high on the camp stove and you couldn't turn it down more than I had it. So I switched to a cream cheese based thing. So like working through things like that and figuring out what goes right in a recipe and what goes wrong is important. Troubleshooting and other skills like that showed me that you can change things as you go along and still make it your own thing that turns out very successful in the end. So that was good to know about myself and about cooking as well. So for my final product, I did a 5-course meal. The first course was gazpacho, which is a Spanish cold vegetable soup. I thought that was great because it's really light and fresh and uses a lot of vegetables that are found in the spring and summer, that can be found around here. So that was a very local dish. For my second course, I had empanadas, which I enjoyed, having had them in Argentina this past September, and then making them on my own was great, with a beef filling. Those were delicious. And then my third course was the collard green pesto that I had made for my friends, because I thought it was so cool that it tasted so great, but it was still, a leafy vegetable. For my fourth course, I had a mushroom and chicken pasta. I actually made this for the first time about 4 years ago, but back then I had a lot of help from my parents, and they had done most of it, and I just kind of like helped along. So I used that original idea and put my own twist on it and made it myself. So that was good. It was fun to see how far I'd come since then, cooking-wise. And for my fifth course, I did go with a fruit tart. So that's also kind of like balancing out the first course, very light and fresh with lots of berries and things that can be found around here as well. So it was fun to make an entire meal that, used ingredients that were humanely raised, that support my own eating choices, and that also were locally sourced to support sustainability and things like that. In the future, I look forward to keeping cooking as a lifelong hobby. It's better to enjoy something that you have to do, and we all need to feed ourselves, so it's great that I've learned to love it now. But I do plan to study mechanical engineering at Georgia Tech. I found that my passions for science and math are better suited to a career, and my passions for cooking are better for a hobby that I can keep for the rest of my life. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?